I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I rent a very small house near my work. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before, but afterward, I was much more careful about who my friends were. One day, I went to work, came home, made dinner, and sat on the couch to watch a show or movie. It was Friday, so I liked to stay up a little later than usual. Sometimes, my eyes wouldn't let me. I turned on a movie around 8 o'clock and fell asleep during it. A sharp, sudden sound jolted me awake. It was my phone, and I'd never heard that sound before. I picked it up from the coffee table and squinted at the bright screen. It was a notification for a message on Facebook. I opened it, and it took me straight to the Facebook Messenger app, which I had never actually used before. I was confused to see a text from a man simply saying, "Hello." His name looked familiar but wasn't one of my close friends. I clicked on his profile and saw that we had one mutual friend and had been friends on Facebook for 4 months. This sparked my memory of when I accepted his invite. Honestly, I just accept anyone's invite as long as they have mutual friends with me. I don't share anything too private online, so it never really mattered to me. I went back to the Messenger app and said, "Hi," to be polite. I also began to recognize how late it was and how odd it was to randomly text someone at this time. Immediately after I sent it, the 3 dots appeared as the person was typing. Then, a new message came in. I read it, gasped, and dropped my phone on the table while looking over at the window. The text said, "I love that movie too. We should watch it together." I didn't see anything outside the window. It was completely black. I was shaking, knowing someone was definitely watching me. I felt super uncomfortable, not knowing how long they'd been watching. Then, I heard my phone beep again and light up with a new message. I was horrified and just stared at my phone on the table, unable to move or look at the message. I can't even tell you how long I was frozen there. Everything felt so strange. Then, the doorbell rang. I jumped again, now with tears in my eyes from the panicked state I was in. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I tried to explain my situation as best I could while overwhelmed and crying. The operator told me they had someone on the way in just 5 minutes and told me to lock myself in a room and wait for help. I agreed, trying to calm myself down. Just as I was ending the call, another message came through, then another, and another. They were spamming my phone with that awful beep sound. I turned it on silent. I barely got myself to open them and saw maybe 10 or 15 messages in all caps from the man demanding me to open the door. Then, the very last message simply read, "Never mind." I didn't know what that meant, but I found out a few seconds later. A soft bang came from the other side of the house. It was very muffled, as if it were far away. I stood still, listening for a moment, before another one, louder this time, echoed through the hallway by the kitchen. I could hear the sound more clearly now and tell it was coming from the basement. I quickly ran to my bedroom, hearing another, much louder bang followed by something shattering. I locked myself in the room, crying uncontrollably from fear. I listened to the sounds of the man making his way through the basement and up the stairs. I knew I kept the basement door locked, but I was sure the man would break through at any minute. I heard the doorknob rattling followed by several shoves as if attempting to push through it. Then, 3 loud knocks came from the front door. "Police! Open up!" I sprinted to the front door, unlocked it, and let them in. There were 2 male police officers. I think they could see the worry in my eyes. I pointed to the basement door, talking fast and telling them that he was in there. They immediately took out their guns and rushed in. The intruder's footsteps ran down the steps as the officers opened the door and carefully followed after. They caught the man after a quick struggle. To keep it short, the man had broken in through the window well in the basement. That's what the noise was. As for who he was actually the man on Facebook. I assumed he was using a fake account or something, but no, that was actually him. He didn't give any reason for breaking in aside from apparently just wanting to talk to me. It was very odd and creepy. I'd never had anything like that happen before. I kind of just thought these were things that only happened in movies. Later that week, I went through my friends list and removed anyone I didn't know personally. It's sad that I have to do that, but I guess this is the world we live in now. This happened in July of last year. My house was having some big problems, and I was left without power for several days while it was getting repaired. I worked from home, so this was a major issue. I ultimately had to rent an Airbnb to stay at for a few days until the power was back on. I don't live in the biggest city, so there weren't many options for Airbnbs near me. The closest one at a reasonable price was about a 45-minute drive from my home. It was in an even smaller, secluded area of the city, often referred to as not the best section to live in. I was only staying for a few days, though, so the savings were worth it. When I arrived, I went straight inside and basically went to bed right away, exhausted from everything going on with my house. In the morning, I got up early and started setting up my laptop and workspace. Just before I had to start work, there was a knock at the door. I debated whether or not to open it because it wasn't even my house. But thinking it might be the host or something, I went up to the door and checked who it was. On the porch was a man, maybe in his early 30s and covered in tattoos. He didn't look like an Airbnb host or even a salesperson. Unsure why he was there and not really wanting to know, I figured I'd ignore it. I walked away from the door and back to the desk, finishing getting ready and starting work. I had some meetings and a lot of work to catch up on from my absence. I don't think I left the desk until 8 p.m. Even then, I was considering going back to work after going out and picking up dinner. Only a couple of minutes after I got back and started eating, another knock came at the door. I immediately got up and went to check who it was. I wasn't surprised to see it was that same guy from before. What could he possibly want from me this late in the day, though? I was actually more bothered than concerned. But again, I just walked away from the door and went back to eat my dinner. After 30 minutes, around 1 a.m., I decided to work for at least another hour. I was tired, but the work had to get done. I knew putting it off until tomorrow would just make me more stressed. I put my headphones in and tried to focus for the next hour. I got a lot done and finally closed my laptop for the night. I hadn't realized how dark it had gotten. I guess my laptop screen was the only light I had on. I went to the front hall, flipped on the light, and a chill instantly rushed through me. There were faint but unmistakable shoe prints in the front hallway. Looking around, they were all over the place, even going right up behind the desk I was working at. Terrified, I slowly followed them down to the back door, which was cracked open. I don't even know how to describe what I was feeling. It was pure horror. And only moments after this, footsteps started coming down the stairs. They were slow and careful, but when they got to the bottom, a man peered out into the hallway and looked directly at me. It was that same man, easily distinguishable with all the tattoos. He looked surprised to see me walking around, but that surprise quickly turned into rage. His face had no emotions other than irritation and anger. I was going to try to say something, but no words came out. As my heart started pounding in my chest, I turned right back around and sprinted out the back door. I ran through the backyard and into some trees far behind the houses. I sat behind a tree and pulled out my phone, starting to dial 911. But I quickly closed it when I heard footsteps running toward me. I didn't expect them to follow me, but luckily, they passed by without seeing me and continued to run out into the dark. Once I got in contact with the police, I went back to the Airbnb and waited for them. I gave a detailed description of the man, and they actually found him the next day. It was confirmed to be him by the tattoos I had noticed. He had broken into several homes in the days leading up, doing horrible things to those who lived in them. I don't know what he was planning to do to me or why he seemed to have left me alone at first, but I can rest easy knowing he won't be able to do anything anymore.